Who's the Chiefs quarterback for Sunday's game against the Minnesota Vikings? We don't know this, not on Wednesday, October 30th. So let's deal in what we do know on SportsBeat KC, sponsored by Big O Tires. I'm your host, Blair Kerkhoff. What we know, this is a good Vikings team coming to Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. And we're going to talk about them with Strom. He has a podcast on the TalkNorth.com network, and he covers the Vikings. Later, we'll get into the Chiefs quarterback situation and hear from Matt Moore, who met the media before Chiefs practice on Wednesday. It's customary for the quarterback to speak at the podium on Wednesday, and the Chiefs make off-limits to the media players who are injured. That left Moore as the only candidate because Patrick Mahomes still is nursing the knee injury. We'll hear thoughts on Moore's first NFL start since 2017, the loss to the Packers on Sunday Night Football, and about how quickly he became reacquainted with the game after not playing last season. But first, let's talk Vikings with Strom. And if the voice quality sounds a little different, we recorded it on a different recording device.
I'm joined by Strom, who covers the Vikings and the Minnesota sports scene for TalkNorth.com and also does some board work for SiriusXM. Stephen, how you doing today?
Hey, Blair, it's a pleasure to be on today. I'm excited. We've got a very interesting matchup on Sunday, two potential deep playoff teams, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think they're both playoff-bound teams. The Vikings have really impressed me. Whereas the Chiefs got off to the 4-0 start, after a month, I wasn't sure where the Vikings were headed. 2-2, and Kirk Cousins, you just kind of you weren't 100% sure what was going on with him or whether he was, what kind of season he was going to have. But over the last month, quite a role reversal with the Chiefs struggling a bit and the Vikings, I think, playing as well as any team in the NFL. Tell me what's going on with the Vikings. Why have things turned around so pronouncedly for them?
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't know where the Vikings were going. I don't think the Vikings knew where they were going after 4 games. It was interesting. The first game of the year, we'll just really break it down really quickly here. In the Atlanta game, Cousins throws for 98 yards. Vikings win, though, so you don't hear a lot of hoopla about Cousins. And the next game, they go to Green Bay, and they struggle in the first quarter. Green Bay goes up 21-0, and the Vikings kind of storm their way back. Cousins throws a late interception in the red zone, and that kind of loses them the game. Week after that, they play Oakland. Cousins doesn't do anything really much either. So it's funny, the first 4 games, when the Vikings win, obviously you don't hear a lot of stuff about Cousins, but then I think the breaking point and a lot of tipping point, I think, in the locker room, Cousins in general, and the entire organization was that Bears game when they lost 16-6. They couldn't move the ball. Cousins looked petrified, and, a lot of people, I think, including the wide receivers who ended up, quote-unquote, calling him out, Adam Thielen, Stefon Diggs, trade rumors after that. I think that honestly woke him up. And then the following week, they started this streak of 4 in a row as they beat the Giants. I think it was a great game to have, just to, not a very good defense. You want to get Cousins' confidence up, and I think that's what kind of started it. But the real test started against Philly, and I got to credit Zach Brown, who openly called out Cousins, calling him the weak spot, and then he ended up having that 4-touchdown game, and then it's really been he's just been on fire as of late. I think the biggest thing, though, that they've been able to do is implement the zone blocking scheme that Gary Kubiak and Kevin Stefanski has been working on all offseason. And it's the ability to run the ball on first down, setting up the second down play action. As we know, the Vikings play action more than any other team right now in the NFL with Kirk Cousins. So I think playing to Cousins' strengths, which is play action, which is rolling out, I think that's been the biggest really difference as of the last 4 games. So being able to run the ball is obviously essential to this team's success. And Dalvin Cook, without McCaffrey, I think Dalvin Cook has been the best running back in the game behind Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, I think defensively they've been okay. At home it's day and night from their defense being at home from, on the road. But I think offensively with Cousins, it starts with the run game, and they're doing things that make him very comfortable.
Right. Well, Cousins, 315 yards per game over the last 4 with 10 touchdowns and 1 interception, and that 1 pick I think went off of Diggs' hands. It wasn't it wasn't a bad throw. And then look, and you mentioned Dalvin Cook. He really is having a fantastic season. He leads the NFL with 823 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, and the rookie Madison is also what a nice draft pick that ends up being.
Oh, it ends up being a tremendous draft pick. And I actually had his assistant coach on at Boise State, Lee Marks, and he was just talking to me about how this kid can be a sleeper. And you know, you kind of roll your eyes. It's like, okay, well, every coach of his is going to tell me that. But, boy, was he dead on. I mean, this is a guy that has more rushing yards than David Johnson and Joe Mixon, which is an unbelievable thing. This guy's getting half the carries they're getting and has put up 300-plus yards already. He has been a absolute horse for the Vikings. He does everything pretty well. He catches out of the backfield. He runs downhill. He had a couple runs against Washington where, first of all, there's been penalties that negated a big run. But I don't know if you watched a lot of the Washington Viking game. He had a couple runs where they can't bring the guy down after 4 or 5 tackles. I mean, he kind of looks like Dalvin Cook when he runs as well. So he's been an awesome draft pick, for this team, and he's really kind of fit into this offense very well.
I like a stat that I saw on him. He leads the team in broken tackles this year with 14.
There you go.
So, what about Stefon Diggs? Of course, quite a talent. I was hearing him with trade rumors earlier this year, but man, has he come on big in these last few games. Over 100, he's averaging 150 yards receiving with 21 receptions over the last 3. Just playing up to his capability in these last few games.
Yeah. So first, I just want to address this really quickly. That I'm close with a couple of journalists close to the Vikings, and they told me that Diggs' issue was not with Kirk Cousins. It was more with the coaching staff and the way that they were calling the game. So I think the first thing when you thought Stefon Diggs wants out because, Cousins isn't getting him the ball. But from what I was hearing and what they were telling me is that Stefon Diggs never had any personal issues with Kirk Cousins. It was more about the coaching staff getting him the ball. And obviously they have made that a priority the last few games here. Look, Stefon Diggs, to me, is probably a top 15, top 10 wide receiver in this league. It was very frustrating for him in the beginning of the year because he wasn't getting the looks. But it's a different offense, Blair. I mean, last year it was ran by John DeFilippo. It was more of a spread offense, and you can't run a spread if you don't have a very good offensive line or your quarterback is immobile. So you knew that there was going to be a drop-off this year as they kind of transitioned to this run-first, heavy play-action kind of, fullback, 12 personnel, 2 tight end look. You weren't going to get a lot of looks on the outside for Adam Thielen and Diggs as they were last year. I mean, their stats were pretty insane. I mean, you look at Thielen, had a career year. So I think the importance of Stefon Diggs to get him going is vital to this team. And obviously we've shown last week where, he's able to make enough plays for the Vikings to win games. And, he's been a tremendous, another, late round pick for the Vikings that turned into a gem.
Hey, so do you think we're going to see Thielen this week?
Yeah, I think Thielen I think he could have went last week against Washington, and I think they made the right decision. As soon as he came out of that Detroit game where he pulled his hamstring, I was saying, do not play this guy Thursday. He can get away with it against a team like Washington, who obviously has won one game, and they've been a disaster this year. But I was begging that they keep him out. They did. They say that he's ready to go on Sunday. It's obviously a huge get for the Vikings as they're going to need everything they need offensively to try to score with the Chiefs.
Right. One thing, we saw the Packers last week here in Kansas City, and, of course, Green Bay came out with a victory on Sunday Night Football. Knowing that we were going to see the Vikings this week, as I was kind of doing some homework on the Vikings, when these AFC, NFC games, you only see the opponent once every 4 years. So as I was just reading up, trying to get more familiar with the Vikings, I was just struck by how good they were on both sides of the ball. Unlike the Packers or the Chiefs, really, for that matter, the Vikings are, you can make a case that there's not a team with better balance on both sides of the ball than Minnesota. They're third in the NFL, and I don't know if I'm not sure I'm getting this exactly right, but third in the NFL in yards gained and fifth in the NFL in yards allowed, or maybe it's switched. But this, to me, because the defense is as good as it is, and that certainly reflects Zimmer, his philosophy, that this really is a championship level type team. So let's talk about the defense for a second. And it starts up front, and Hunter is following up a terrific season with just kind of quietly having another great season.
Yeah, just to give you the stats really quickly, it's the Vikings are giving up 16.5 points per game. It's third in the league. Giving up 313 yards passing. That's fifth in the league. Total yards 313, passing yards 224, which is eighth. And then rushing yards, I think it's at 89, which is seventh in the league. All I know is that all four phases are in the top 10. And yes, last year was so frustrating for the Vikings because it seemed like in the beginning of the year, the offense was gelling, but the defense couldn't get a grip. And then towards the end of the year, you saw the flip. And what is football? It's balance, as you said. And when you can get all three phases going at the same time, you're very hard to beat. And I think that's what we've seen the last four games with the Vikings is their defense has really played well, and the offense also. And that's what it's about here. You've got to have a good balance. And, Zimmer, you got to give Zimmer this. Ever since he got hired with the Vikings, their defensive numbers has obviously been top in the league. It's been a consistent trend with him, and he's drafted really well. And just to kind of touch up on what you said about the front four, and I think that's going to be the biggest X factor in this game is can the front four get to whether it be Matt Moore or Patrick Mahomes, because we know that Kansas City's banged up. I mean, defensively and offensively on their line. But can the Vikings front four get to Moore or Mahomes, because the corners have been probably the weakest part of this team. I mean, Xavier Rhodes, who was once known as a lockdown corner, he had the trademark roads are closed. The guy was locking up. Odell Beckham, Julio Jones. Now the roads are open. I mean, he has been absolutely brutal as of late. Zimmer's had to take him out on numerous times, and they're very thin in that position, Blair. I mean, they've got a young corner in Mike Hughes, who was just actually involved with an incident with Jaron Kearse a couple days ago, and they've got Trey Waynes, who's been their most consistent corner. But I think the speed of the outside of Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and Sammy Watkins, I think they're going to give a lot of trouble to this secondary if the front four can't get to Mahomes or more.
Well, and I think that is really a critical component for the Chiefs this week. They've got to get the balls to their stars and have to use their speed against this Vikings defense, because you're right, the corners are the vulnerability, and that's the only one that I see on the defensive side with Kendricks having the season he's having, Hunter, of course, Anthony Barr. It's just been a terrific season so far for the Vikings. All right, Steve, let's wrap it up by give me a thought on the game. How do you think it unfolds? Who wins this thing?
Well, it's going to sound as generic as you probably can predict, but I mean, if Mahomes plays, it's going to be a 5-6 point spread. I mean, that's just the bottom line. A swing. I mean, Matt Moore plays. I don't know. They haven't obviously released the spread yet. I'm into that kind of stuff. I would assume if Matt Moore plays that this is going to be, it could be a pick'em. It could be, the Chiefs maybe minus a point. But if Mahomes plays, I think this is going to be at least a 4-point spread. I think he's that much, valuable to Vegas. But if I had to, I would probably lean towards if the Chiefs play more, I would lean towards the Vikings being able to get after him. And I think offensively, they just posed, the Vikings-wise, a lot of issues. And as we kind of alluded to, Frank Clark out, Chris Jones, Xavier Williams have got a lot of injuries for Kansas City. And I think that the Vikings are going to be able to put up some points here regardless of if Mahomes plays or not. But I think if Mahomes plays, I'll give the edge to the Chiefs. I think they win this game 31-27, 31-28. But I think if Matt Moore plays, I would lean towards 28-24 Vikings win.
I like that. And look, Mahomes, if Mahomes plays, which I don't think he will, but if he does.
I was going to ask you. You don't think he will?
No, I don't think he will. I think he's going to sit this week, and I think they're going to target the following week. The Chiefs play at Tennessee in the next game, and I think they're going to give it a second week and see what happens. So, look, even with Mahomes on the field, they lost back-to-back home games to the Colts and the Texans, which was a real jolt to the Chiefs fans. But he's been he's had a gimpy ankle all season as well, and that's affected his mobility. But he is he is obviously a special guy and a total difference maker. I think the Chiefs just want to see him back as close to 100% as he possibly can be after the knee problem and the dislocated kneecap and the ankle. So we'll see. We'll have more information later in the week on that. But Stephen, hey, it's great talking to you. Before I let you go, I know you cover the entire Twin Cities scene. Give me a quick thought on Andrew Wiggins and the T-Wolves. Is this the year they get into the playoffs?
Oh, Lord. Andrew Wiggins, talk about an up and down roller coaster relationship. I mean, this guy out of Kansas comes in the league. You know, his first couple of years, he's great. They signed him to that lucrative deal. And, and so far, so good with Andrew. You know, he's really had some strong endings to the games. In Brooklyn, the first game, he was great. And then last game, he was tremendous against Miami. But Andrew Wiggins, there's no secret. Towns and Wiggins are the franchise, and they go where those two are going to go. And Towns has elevated his game. I think this is the year we see him get all NBA. Andrew Wiggins needs to adapt to the times. I mean, let's be honest here. The NBA is a 3-and-D. We're going to shoot threes. We're going to shoot layups. And the mid-range game it's become extinct. And for Andrew, I guess he's trying to keep that thing alive because he continues to shoot his mid-range jump shots. And, Saunders is going to bench him. I mean, that's what happened in the Miami game. He took a couple boneheaded mid-range shots, and Saunders sat him, and he came back in and did what he had to do. But Andrew Wiggins is definitely, it's a roller coaster relationship with him. The thing I give him credit about is he's very mentally tough. He's been booed, and it's very hard for Minnesotans to boo players because they're very nice up there. But Andrew's capable of that, and he's been he's handled it well. And I think the way he started, though, this season is definitely encouraging for the Timberwolves.
Terrific. Okay. Stephen Strom from TalkNorth.com. Really enjoyed the conversation, and let's do it again soon.
Oh, for sure, Blair. Thanks for having me on. And, hey, I'll talk to you on Friday.
Yes, you will.
When it comes to saving you money on tires, nobody does it better than Big O Tires. Like saving you up to $120 on select sets of Goodyear, Yokohama, Pirelli, and Continental tires now through November 3rd. That's $70 off instantly, plus up to $50 back by mail-in rebate when you purchase using your Big O Tires card. Hurry into Big O Tires and see how much you can save. Big O Tires, the team you trust. For the location nearest you, go to bigotires.com.
Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of KansasCity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Matt Moore met the media today at the Chiefs training facility. That's a duty reserved for the starting quarterback. But don't read too much into that. It's also Chiefs policy that players who are on the injured list don't talk to the media. And technically, when Moore spoke Wednesday, Patrick Mahomes remained on the injured list from last week. So here's what Moore had to say about his performance in the loss to the Green Bay Packers, what he's picked up from Mahomes, and how he's preparing this week without exactly knowing the quarterback situation for Sunday's game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, sorry. There's more people in this room this week.
All right, guys, fire away. You had a chance to sort of evaluate yourself on film between the last time we talked with you. Anything that really stands out?
Just a couple things. Some footwork stuff that I think I can clean up a little bit. Some throws, timing stuff, all stuff that I kind of initially thought after the game. So kind of looked at it and work on it moving forward.
How do you feel Monday morning? Be a little sore?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was. But all good. Having not been hit for a long time, you'll feel it a little bit.
Matt, you had over a decade in the league. Just where did this team with the skill position players rank as far as just teams you've ever played with and weapons that you've had?
Yeah, it'd be hard to say it's not up high on top of the list, I've played with a lot of good guys over the years and been fortunate to have great teammates, but yeah, the guys on this team, it's hard not, you can't overlook these guys for sure.
not knowing yet if Pat's going to play? How do you approach it?
Same. Just you go out, you prepare, get ready to play a game. You value the reps you get and use those to your advantage, and just move forward with that mindset. I mean, this is nothing new. I've been in this situation before, so I'm used to it, and just go practice and get better and prepare yourself for Sunday.
One thing you noted after the game was just wanting to start out a little quicker.
Yeah.
What goes into maybe a little bit of that in preparing?
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it for me, maybe is just mindset. Maybe not overthinking things early on, or just playing what you see, playing what they're giving you, taking what they're giving you, things like that. I don't know if there's a true answer to that question, but just however you get comfortable quickly, I got to do that.
Coach Reid said a lot of the players in the locker room have a lot of confidence, which has been a big difference maker. How does that help with that comfortability?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's a huge deal. It means a lot. You can feel it. I can feel it. I think they can feel it. It just makes things go smoother, and they know, I think, what the capabilities are. Everybody knows what the capabilities are and what we can do if we're all functioning on the same page. And so I just think it makes everything work a little better with everybody being confident.
When you look at the Minnesota defense, 6 Pro Bowlers or something
Yeah.
in there, what do you see in another test again against a good?
Yeah, great test. Great players, obviously, and they've been playing together for a long time. They've been in that scheme. They've been with each other. All their communication. Extremely cohesive group, obviously, on defense. So that's going to be challenging, and they're very sound in what they do, and that makes us we just got to kind of be on top of our game and execute what we got going on. But very good defense for sure.
You mentioned after the game, Matt, the idea of you and Andy starting to get more of a connection, sort of understanding in the rhythm, I guess is probably the best way to say it, in the second quarter. When you look at last week's game plan to this week's game plan, how much of that do you feel like that will be a factor in how you're doing that sort of first half? First quarter?
Yeah, I think it's still early to answer that question, but I mean, I think that'll stand true any week. As the weeks go on, I think that's going to get better. I think who knows what the situation is, but as we go on, down the road, he's going to know 5 weeks from now a lot more about what I like or what suits me and call it accordingly. So I think time is just going to be a huge thing as opposed to scheme, although, our staff always does a great job of scheming stuff up. So I just think time's going to be the biggest thing with that.
Anything stand out about working with Andy during the game for the first time?
No, it was pretty normal. I mean, if I wasn't playing, I'd still be sitting right there. And if I had to compare the conversations, it was very similar to some you would have with Patrick. So there's only so much time over there. You know what I mean? It's not like we're getting into crazy stuff.
You also had Patrick Mahomes kind of coaching as well. Anything memorable that he told you to?
No, just a couple things. I mean, I think Sunday night I said something, it was he would tell me about technique or hey, this corner's playing this way or whatever, or hey, if we come back to this, and the safety's here, maybe look at this, whatever, things like that. And again, this guy's pretty good at running this offense, so I was kind of all ears listening to him, and his vision is incredible. So I told him, I said, you be you, just keep the information coming if you see fit.
We talk a lot about the speed that this team has at the very skilled positions. Now that you've seen it in game action, is there a difference between the game speed and practice speed?
Yeah, always, and especially here. These guys, obviously, it's built around speed, and that shows. I think if I had one that I wanted back, would have been like the post to Tyreek when we were backed up, kind of shorted it, but there's a big play potential there, all based on speed. So I noted that one and got to get it out earlier next time. But for sure, everything steps up, everything's quicker in a game.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thanks guys.
Links to the stories we discussed can be found in the show notes on kansascity.com and in the Kansas City Star. Additional Chiefs coverage is available through the Red Zone Extra app. Leah Becerra, who likes radishes, produced today's episode. Thanks, Leah. And we have a long-distance shout-out today. Listen, we appreciate every one of our listeners. and it's a population that grows each week. We often hear from or hear about SportsBeat KC listeners outside the metro area. Take Copenhagen in Denmark. That's where Jonathan Schick lives. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Jonathan. Thanks for listening. SportsBeat KC will be back on Thursday talking Chiefs from Big O Tires at the Legends. I hope you'll tune in or download, however you access us. Talk to you then.